Hi everyone, and welcome to our first video on the LMS King component. So you've just finished installing the learning management system, and now you need to know where do you go next. So this will be the page that you will see when you first start the component and have registered it to the support domain that you want it to work on. So let's go to Open or Create. Now we're going to use the creation wizard because that's the fastest way to get up and going. Okay, so we're going to create a new certification path. Okay, and we're going to give it a description. Okay. Now we need to set the start and end publishing dates for the certification path. So to see it immediately, it's best to set yesterday as the start date. It depends on where your server is located. Okay, and a future end date. Now what that does is that makes your certification path show or not show in the front end of the site. Now if you want the certification path to be free, you set the price as 0.00, and now it's free. In a future course we will show you what the certificates are, where you can create your own certificates which will populate with fields that from the user registration information on completion of exams and quizzes too, I believe. Alright, and the validity of the subscription for the certification path in this example will be 1 month. You can add a thumbnail image to the front end of the site where people will view your certification path, and we're going to publish the certification path. Now let's go to the next step. In the next step we're going to add the course. So let's add course 1. No description is needed, it's not a required field. We can add a new category. Okay, so there's our category. Here we can set a course level certificate as well, but we're not going to do that right now. The certificate is valid for 1 month, if you were to select one. Now this information here, hours, this is just for presentation as to how long you expect it will take the student to go through this whole course. Alright, here we can select the information about where the course is being run from, meaning if you have multiple different institutes, online institutes, you can set different areas of the country, or different countries for that matter. Now we can set prerequisite courses, which means that if this course has not been completed, then the course we are now creating cannot be started. They won't have access to it. Okay, and if you select more than one here, you can say here how many of those the user has to complete. 1, 2. Alright, so we're going to turn the prerequisites off, and we're going to go to the next step, which is configuring the lesson. Alright, so let's create a lesson name. Don't need to enter a description right now. And now, this is the important part here. There are 5 different types of lessons. A quiz will give you feedback, or give the user feedback if they get the question wrong, which you can enter yourself. You don't give them the exact answer, you tell them how they can figure out the answer themselves. That way next time they do the quiz, they can get the correct answer. Alright, there's a survey just for asking questions, presentation just for presenting information, and the score modules themselves. And the exam is the most important one, which gives the certificates and has the points system. Alright, just set a category. Now you can set prerequisite lessons also. So lesson 2 has to be done after lesson 1, and lesson 1 must be completed. Alright, it must be completed successfully, meaning they have to get the pass mark. Now, here we set who's going to be the teacher, who is going to be the assistant. Now, if you don't use the assistance feature, just create a demo or dummy user in the system and put them into the assistance group. And that user you just select every time you create a new set of lesson. You can pre-select students that are in the students group also, but we're not going to do that right now because it's not part of this video tutorial. And a feedback form which you can forward the user to after they have finished the lesson, or the exam as it would be in this case. That way you can get extra feedback from them. Alright, let's go to the next page where we're going to configure the display settings for the lesson. Here we set the instructions. You don't have to, it's not a required field. Okay. Now, depending on how you format your questions, you can hide the title of the question or not. In most cases, you actually have the question title itself as part of the question. And here we can set a pass mark. Let's just say we're going to set 50%. So they have to complete it. We can set, yes, they can do multiple attempts. You leave it as 0 or blank for unlimited attempts. Forced completion, well, you can't do that as long as it's allow multiple attempts. Forced completion means that they must complete it the first time it's launched, or they fail the exam. So there's no stop and start. Now you can add a timer for it, which means that they have until this many minutes to complete the exam. After this number of minutes, the system will not accept any future answers, which means it will just stop recording the answers. Alright, this is publish unpublish for the lesson itself. This way you can schedule lessons to show to the students at week 1, week 2, week 3, for example. So for this example, we're just going to say it's published yesterday, and it's going to go until the 12th. Alright. Okay, you can password protect them as well, so you can give the students access to it only if they have the password to enter the lesson, but we're not going to do that. A timed lesson, which means the system will time the amount of time the student is actually learning. This is for statistics purposes, to ensure that students have studied online for X number of hours. I believe it's a US state requirement in some states that you must track how long the user is studying for. And here's the option to email the results to the teacher of the lesson. That way the teacher doesn't have to log in each time and see what's going on with the student. You can set the progress bar style. Okay, there's two main styles, but you can set the options for them. Well, there's the color schemes for them, but let's leave that for now. Alright, feedback and presentation. These are options basically for quizzes, but presentation here is the most important one. You can show all the questions on the screen at once in these different layouts, or one question at a time. You can prohibit backtracking, which means they can't click back and re-answer the question that they've got, or re-answer the question that they've already answered, better to say. Showing feedback, that is for quizzes where the user has answered the question incorrectly. And here you can randomize the questions in the lesson, but let's not do that for now. Number formats of list type options. Let's leave that as 1, 2, 3 for now, and you can set this as full screen or iframe. So let's hit next, and that is the end of what we're going to do right now, because the next step is actually creating the questions themselves to go into the lessons. So let's finish without importing. Now that we've finished the wizard, everything is being saved and generated in the system. Let's go to the Manage tab just to confirm that. So let's start with the certification paths. There's my certification path. Now currently it says it's incomplete because it says there's no questions in the lesson, which is fine. There's the course categories, oops, and here's my lessons themselves, and there's my lesson, but it contains no questions at the moment. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go and create a couple of questions. Okay, so let's create a multiple choice question. Okay, let's add an answer. So the answer is Sydney. Let's add another answer. The answer is Adelaide. And another one, Darwin. Okay, and we're going to say, let's change that one. Going to say the correct answer here is C, so it's worth a point. Save. As you can see, our question has now gone down into the bottom footer section. Okay, and now we can add a second question. Now these are the question titles that I was referring to before. This should not show at the front end. So second question. And the correct answer, of course, is B, because Melbourne is a city, not a state. And insert into list, which means save. What position in the list? Oh, okay, let's just set it before question 1. Alright, so we now have 2 questions. We should be now able to see it in the Manage tab, Certification Paths list. And it should say visible. And it does. So just to quickly test that, let's go to the front end, page of certification paths. And there we go. We can see our certification path ready to go. That's the end of this video tutorial, and we'll continue with the next one.